Oh, are we? Oh, damn it. I had an intro video. Well, I'm going to play that intro video for you anyway because it's so good. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh. I'm back. Welcome to Disaffected Live. Um, Hang on a second here. Just making sure I'm going out to every platform. It always happens this way. Thank you for bearing with. Okay. All right. So I screwed up the intro video, but I have to play it. So I'm going to take us down and just pretend this is no, all new. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Disaffected Live. It's July 8, 2026. I'm your host, Joshua Slocum. I am back from the great big interstate family move that had me off the air. I know I'm going to get called a boomer for saying off and on the air now. I know off and on the stream. I don't want to get resmogged. But thank you all for your patience. I know it's been a couple weeks since we've had a stream. I'm glad to be back, but moving my sister and my nephew and my brother-in-law and coordinating with movers and going from one state to another was a very, very big job that didn't end once we got the truck unloaded. So I needed all that time to do it, but they're all here now. I've got my family with me. I'm glad to see you guys again. I miss doing the stream, coming to you from the whimsy corner of my living room. We're going to have an interesting conversation today. If you use Twitter/X, you may know Aimee Terese. And when I bring her on, if I've mispronounced her name, she's going to correct me. We've been following each other for a while, off and on. I think at one point I followed her and then she didn't follow me and she followed me and I didn't follow her because sometimes I'm a big dick on Twitter, but we're following each other again. And the reason I have her on is because I see very few people on social media who have as clear and accurate a grasp of cluster B personality dynamics as Aimee does. She not only, I don't know a lot about her story. We're sort of going to do this virgin and raw here. But I know that she's had some personal family experience with this, as I have and as many of you have. But what really catches my eye about Aimee is that she sees the feminine psychological abuse tactics very sharply, and she identifies correctly that we are living not only in a cluster B society, but in a cluster B society that uses the particularly feminine abuse tactics that you find in cluster B. So naturally, social media, you can't actually punch people. You can't reach over and grab their purse or do a violent crime male style. But what you can do is reputation destruction. You can use what's called passive aggression, which is a misnomer. I like George K. Simon's formulation, covert or veiled aggression, because there's nothing passive about, well, maybe you should have thought a little bit more about the harm you're doing, but I'm sure you didn't mean to. That's not passive. That's actively aggressive, and it dials up from there. So why don't we bring Aimee on? She's coming to us with voice and by picture today. Aimee, welcome to Disaffected.
Thank you so much for having me. I was there like nodding along and saying like, yup, as you're
Okay.
like saying things.
Okay, good. If I got anything wrong, correct me, because we haven't talked extensively. So this is going to be an interesting. We're going to kind of get to know each other a little bit more here. We talked a little bit behind the scenes, but first, let me make fun a little bit. The reason why I did the Jewish jeans commercial, there's a chain here. I told you earlier today that I love your picture, and I advertised everybody can ask about her sassy Rhoda hair wrap, and you were like, I have no idea who Rhoda is. It's American.
I didn't know what that meant, but I got the general idea that it was like a reference to someone, and it seemed friendly enough, so I just went along with it.
It was friendly. It's Rhoda was a spin-off character from our very popular 70s sitcom, The Mary Tyler Moore Show. So Rhoda was sort of, what would you call her? I think Sage is in here and she'll know what I'm talking about. Sort of that Jewish bohemian
Gotcha.
character. So she always had a schmata on, but it was really brightly colorful. So I went from there to Jewess jeans on our Saturday Night Live. So that's how my mind works. So Aimee, I'm going to let you describe yourself in your own words. What's your
Oh
story,
no.
man?
Oh, I'm a bit of a clown, really. I think like initially I just started using Twitter to kill time at my job because I had a lot of like not so much downtime, but time where I was like waiting at different I had to do a lot of like paperwork and um lodging of claims at courtrooms and that kind of thing. And so I'd quite often just find myself in a queue with like half an hour to kill. And so that's kind of where it all started. I don't know, maybe like 7, 8 years ago. And I just found myself, funnily enough, being sort of the scapegoat figure on the left who would kind of jump in front of a bunch of bombs that I didn't realize were bombs. Or like hand grenades or whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I'm mixing up metaphors. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, like
Well,
I'm
bless
not
you for joining
entirely.
us. I can't believe you're willing to actually join me at your 5 o'clock in the morning. So thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I was more than happy to, but you'll just have to forgive me for being a little bit slower than usual.
Okay.
If I mix up my metaphors, I've at least got an excuse for doing so. Um, yeah, so it all started there, but I just found myself disagreeing with everything that like the left was doing between like 2017 through 2019, 20. At which point I went, okay, I'm just not part of this. I don't want anything to do with these
Did you
people.
consider yourself on the left at that point?
Well, I did like for most of my life, but I think that my conception of the left was very different to the kind of US left. I guess what I'm saying is, had I interacted with them in the same way at the same sort of like degree of specificity, I think they would have always like booted me out long before then. But it's sort of this idea that when like the left is really only something that you've consumed vaguely from afar, you sort of affiliate with it or see yourself as part of it, even when you're not really. So yeah, it was like a strange experience insofar as they figured out that I wasn't one of them kind of long before I did. Um,
That is interesting.
yeah, because like they were calling me like a right wing plant, like from the very beginning. I'm like, I don't even know what right wing is. Like, I don't. This is strange, but I guess the aspects of the left that I thought were the most like worthwhile were just things like decent wages, healthcare. Like I sort of wanted everyone to have a decent go, and I took real issue with some of the stuff that went down in the 90s that kind of shafted working class people and offshored their jobs and all that kind of thing. And so it seems like sort of in the intervening years that like basically the kind of populist right wing stuff was a lot better fit for me at this time. Um,
Do you remember
given that, yeah.
what particular issues when you first started commenting and then getting pushed out of the left to your surprise? Do you remember what the issues were that the friction started over?
Yes, yeah, I actually do. So the very first one that I recall specifically was there was a union leader who had worked historically with both I think teachers unions, but also with police unions. And so there became this like huge controversy in DSA in like 2017 where they were calling this guy Danny Fatonte a cop. And so the whole thing was like, we don't organize with cops. We don't have anything to do with cops. Like cops are, the current day evil, blah, blah, blah. And
Okay.
so they were like slandering this guy who was like a really good organizer, had extensive history of winning, like of union wins for workers. And he was now like the bad guy. And I just thought that was preposterous. And then you had all these like African American like woke activists saying that like we should be pushing Medicare for all in conjunction with prison abolition. I'm like, that's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. Like, that's the quickest way to never get Medicare for all. Like, are you out of your fucking minds? And then I got called like a racist and all this stuff. And everything just seemed to go to the maximum level of dumb and absurd like really quickly, and I had real difficulty taking a lot of this shit seriously. I was just like, I
It
can't.
sounds like it was a surprise to you. You weren't expecting that
Like,
reaction.
just how retarded they were. It was a little bit because, like, I thought these were serious people who actually wanted to achieve things, and it became really obvious, like, really quickly that, like, that they were either unserious or just had different values. I think they were serious, but it was just they just had different values, like different priorities to what I thought was worth doing. So anyway.
Now, let's I'm curious about let's set this up a little bit. And then we're gonna do a quick humor break. At what point in your life did you become aware of what cluster B personality disorders are? When did you, because you comment on it, a lot of what you say reminds me of what I say, or vice versa. That's one of the things that made you catch my eye on Twitter. And I said, this woman really genuinely knows what cluster B is. I mean, you get it. You see
Yeah,
it,
when
you spot
it's a
it.
nice feeling
What point
when
in your
someone
life?
else is like that, isn't it? It's pretty
Yeah,
rare. I like
because
it. Yeah.
because you know, those of us who can see it are in the minority.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
At what
Yeah.
point in your life did you realize what this was? What happened in your life that brought you to this knowledge?
Well, my mum has borderline personality disorder, so I was dealing with that like growing up. But it's funny because we
Did
didn't
you
have
know
a
that when
no,
you were like a
not
teenager,
when
or
I
is
was
that
growing up,
okay?
no. But I knew there was something was wildly off. But
Mhm.
like whether I couldn't put a name to it or couldn't put my finger on what it actually was. But it was
Right.
affecting all of us. um but yeah, like after sort of in my early 20s, that's when she got the diagnosis, and
Oh,
then
she did actually get diagnosed.
eventually she did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But that made, yeah, shit made a lot of sense once I found that out. And that's when I started doing a bunch of reading, and then yeah. I
Did-
try not to talk too much about family stuff, but
Sure.
it was that, and then there's another family member subsequently who's a different variety of cluster
Sure.
B. But yeah, that's yeah where that knowledge comes from.
Okay. And then let's. I must get the Madonna mockery out of the way, because and I'm doing this. This is sort of, you guys are. This is often first draft for me. I'm going to be writing my column for the Blaze this week, about the slag. So this is, you're kind of going through my pre-editing process with me. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
no. Yeah,
Um,
you're welcome. Anytime.
um, but when we're done with that, what I want to come back and talk about some cluster B specifics in terms of what you see the behaviors out there, but also your particular really keen eye for the feminine expression of it. So let's just give you something to work on. So you guys, have you seen what Madonna has been up to lately? You guys out there in Streamland, because it isn't pretty. I am having a really strange time contemplating this, because, you know, let me stop for a second and ask Aimee, is it possible for you to put headphones in, because I'm getting my voice echoing back to me from you, and I wonder if the audience might be getting that too. Are you there, Aimee?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I wasn't, I don't hear the echo now, but okay, let's just go with it. So Madonna, um, I'm in this strange position mentally about this, because, as most of you guys know, like many young gay men, especially troubled and histrionic young gay men, as I was, um, I was a super fan of this woman. I sort of fell under her, what I now see as a magical spell, an enchantment, back in the 80s. And I bought every record and I identified with her. That's not new. That's not something that just happened in the past 10 years. This kind of behavior has been going on for a long time. And I think generally the young people who get into extreme idolization and frankly idolatry with celebrities like that. Maybe for me it was Madonna. For other people it'll be a different one. So even though we're talking about Madonna here, this is broadly applicable. It's not about one person. It's about that parasocial celebrity relationship. Everything that I thought was so cool and so rebellious and so ballsy about that woman, and the ways that I as a young man wanted to emulate her in ridiculous ways, absolutely disgusts me now. It's really off-putting. I find it beyond uncomfortable to watch her antics. And I was talking to my friend George last night on phone. We went to college together. We're both, middle-aged homosexuals who had a big Madonna fetish for a long time. And it is, she's, everything she does and everything she stands for is morally corrupt. And she's selfish. She's obviously narcissistic. She's mean. She's cold. She's exploitative. She thinks that being an absolute psychological mess and a whore is self-actualization. And I'm sort of having an argument with myself internally about, I watched on the other day, I watched on Twitter, the Madonna wars are starting again with the fans because she's got a new record out. So the super fans are at war with the people who aren't super fans, and the Lady Gaga fans are at war with the Madonna fans. And I'm watching this, not commenting on it, just looking at it and feeling really embarrassed because it's watching a younger version of myself. I participated in this kind of nonsense. I mean, they're screaming at each other. These people who will never meet this woman. She will never give them the time of day. She has nothing to do with their life. They've got shrines to her on their dresser. They get actually genuinely emotional and start screaming and crying when somebody criticizes her. I mean, it is absolutely a psychological mess. So I'm just checking out who's in my chat today too. Hello, chat. Hello, chat. So just to give you a little sample, the woman is 67 years old. Okay. Most of you younger viewers out there, I don't know how many people I have in their 20s and 30s who watch this, but you won't have the memories of this stuff, but it's all out there. She was the biggest star in the world for a long, long time. She just basically became the queen of pop culture in the mid-'80s through a lot of the '90s. And what worked at 30 years old does not work at 67. So let me give you a sample of what she's putting out now. This is from, I think, just yesterday.
Ew.
Okay, Aimee, I'm going to toss it to you. React.
Okay. I feel really bad for her. Like, I'm a big fan of aging gracefully, and like she's a very like attractive woman. Like, she's not ugly, she has great skin. Like, there's no like I'm not trying to sort of hate on her, but like do you really need to be doing all that sexual stuff when you're like in your 70s? Like I don't mean to sound judgmental, but like I'm totally reticent to ever objectify myself, even though I'm like, 30 years her junior. Like, I don't understand why she feels she needs to do that at this age. Like, that's depressing to me. Like, I don't know. Doesn't she have children? Like, wouldn't they almost be having grandchildren? Like, wouldn't her kids be having kids by now?
Yeah. She has 2 children, a boy and a girl that she gave birth to herself. Of course, they have different fathers.
Right.
And she's got, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 adopted children.
Oh, right, of course, like from Africa or Asia.
From Africa, right?
Right.
I call Madonna, and I mean it, it's not just a joke. She is the new Joan Crawford.
Oh,
She
okay. I don't really understand the Joan Crawford reference either. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'll explain it to you.
Yeah.
Joan Crawford was one of the most famous of the Hollywood Golden Age actresses
Right.
in the United States. If you're
Right.
familiar, if you've heard of or at all familiar with the movie Mommy Dearest, No
Okay, I haven't
Wire
seen it.
Hangers.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, I'm afraid.
Okay, that is a biographical picture about Joan and her adopted daughter
Ah,
Christina.
ah,
So
I see. Okay.
okay, so that movie is about her. Faye Dunaway played her. It
Right.
became a cultural, but basically, Joan Crawford was a cluster B as well. She was a borderline and
Ah,
a narcissist and an alcoholic.
it's
And
pretty
she,
standard among celebrities almost, like that they're
yes,
going to be one or both or some combination. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Crawford was the one who started the practice of adopting children for publicity.
Oh, so she memed that into existence and then they all sort of started following. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, she was the original. In the late 30s,
Mhm.
she adopted Christina and Christopher, but she
Right.
actually bought those children from a baby broker.
Oh, as you
Um,
do.
that was connected to organized crime because back in
Right.
those days, adoption agencies actually took their job seriously and they would not give her a child because she was a divorced single actress,
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
right? They're like, you're an
Mm.
unsuitable parent. And of course,
Yeah.
you know, she went insane about that, decided to buy some babies. And, you know, she did the thing of posing with her children for pictures in magazines. She would do twinsy mommy daughter outfits. Uh,
Oh, normal, healthy.
you know,
Yeah.
and she would get these magazine spreads about what a selfless sort of Virgin Mary she was for, you know, taking time out of her busy career to help these poor children who nobody wanted
Amen.
and basked in it and all these things. And look, you know, Madonna comes along, just basically goes to Africa and buys some kids. Yeah, you got to up the ante now in the modern era. It's not enough just to adopt the kids and get plaudits. You have to be a white woman who adopts black kids out of
Mhm.
Africa.
And then they
So,
have to transition.
yes, yeah. And one of her sons, one of her adopted African sons is, I think he's about 20 years old now. And she's been out with him in nightclubs and stuff. There's pictures of him. He's dressed in drag. You know,
Oh, no.
I can see the sick parentification sexualization relationship between her
Oh,
and her
yeah.
son. And I remember it from my relationship with my mother when I was
Yeah,
younger.
right.
But here's some more of Madonna's classy stylings. This, I think, happened just last week in Brazil. So there we have Madonna twerking at 67 years old and putting her butt up in the face of a drag queen that was a man who pretends to give her analingus.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a little much when I was like 15 and she made out with Britney Spears. I was like, do they really need to be doing this on the stage? But
Can you speak
it's
up a little bit?
Oh, sorry. I thought that I was perhaps a little prudish at like 15 when she made out with Britney Spears, and I thought it was a little unnecessary. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's definitely stepped it up, escalated things a little since then.
Yeah, it's gotten much, much worse. And I found what appears to be a candid. She hates candids. I mean, everything has to be airbrushed. And mind you, I've seen this
Right.
woman in concert 8 times over a long period of time, and her shows have always been, with the exception of the last one, you know, fucked up as she is, she's an incredibly
Seems like an
impressive
incredible performer.
performer.
Yeah.
You cannot take your eyes off her, and her shows are just incredible. But
Mm.
I went to the last one, the most recent tour, about 2 years ago now, and
Mhm.
it sucked. It
Oh,
absolutely
really?
sucked. First
That's a
Madonna show that
shame.
was ever even. She's never even put on an average show. I mean, her average
Right.
show is a cut above everybody else's.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
terrible. First of all, there was no band. It was all pre-recorded, just being played back by CD or MP3 file. The
So
sound
it wasn't
design,
even effectively live,
no.
in essence.
I mean, she
Yeah.
was there, but and there's always, a lot of performers lip sync during dance performances. She's always done that, but I've heard her live too, and I've heard her live after she got her vocal training for the movie Evita. She can actually sing in a very
She can
pretty way
sing,
live.
yeah. Yeah.
I have heard it, but
Mm.
she's lost it all now. She's clearly not been practicing. She sounded terrible. She was flat constantly.
Oh.
I couldn't understand. The sound design was so bad. It was so muddy that I couldn't identify many of the songs until about 45 seconds in. The sound was
Oh,
so
wow.
bad, I could not detect the key of the song. I couldn't hear the fundamental pitch.
Wow.
So I was like, what song is this? And she's pouring herself, her 67-year-old body. I mean, she's a fit woman, but at 67, you don't look like you do when you're 28. And she's pouring herself into these teddies, and her crepe skin is hanging out. And it's just, this happens to everybody. Aging is normal and natural, but I turned to my friend. We were all just like, I can't believe the show is so bad. And he says, every time she does a costume change and puts on more clothes, she looks better. So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
anyway, so I found this Candid.
Oh, wow, God, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's straight out of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Let me pull that down here. Oh, there
It's
went
funny. I don't know
Go
if you're
ahead.
familiar with I don't know if you're familiar with Marie Louise von France. She
I'm
was
sorry, say again. You're a little muffled.
I don't know if you're familiar with Marie Louise von France. She was a student of Carl Jung.
Okay.
She wrote this book about the I don't know how to pronounce this correctly, but the per eternus, which is basically like the eternal boy, which is kind of like quite a narcissistic type individual who just never really escapes like childhood, never escapes like the kind of
Yes.
naivete and unwillingness to take on responsibility, and sort of like just basically doesn't age, but like not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah.
And like there are a lot of kind of advantages or like silver linings to that personality type, but there are a lot of like downsides as well. And I feel like she sort of very much conforms to it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of us thought that there was a possibility that she might be rebellious as she got older in a different direction, that she might
Well,
age
yeah, you can rebel in
gracefully.
different ways as you age. Like you don't need to be like, I don't know. I just think the attempt to like cling, like grasping white knuckled to something that's always going to be 2 steps ahead of you seems crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't win that battle against aging. It comes for all of us. So like, why desperately attempt it? It just is awkward and silly. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But
Yeah. It's weird to watch because the sort of crap she's doing, she was one of the first ones as a female pop star to be that overtly sexual and often lewd in her performances and on stage. And now everyone does it. Everyone's been doing it for a very long time. So there's nothing she's doing. Like, I was talking with somebody the other day and was like, well, she's going to have to keep going farther. But my question is, how much farther is there to go?
There's only so far that transgression can take you. Like, how much further can she transgress?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something Nick Cave said a few years ago, and he said, like, at this point, like, the transgressive, rebellious thing to do is, like, go to church.
Yeah. Being right wing
Yeah.
now is the new cool kids club.
Yeah. It's funny.
Well, I'm going to wind this up. I saw this. She put this out on social media the other day, and it just confirmed for me that everything I think about her is true. Why are young gay boys, so many young gay boys, attracted to women like this? I have a whole theory about this. I've written about it on the Substack, but in brief, in my observation, the majority of men who grow up to be homosexual, not all, but yes, the majority, have cluster B mothers or dependent enmeshed enabling mothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They, and yes, I do think it's causative. I don't think it's just correlation. I think it's causative, which makes some people very angry. I get it. If I'm not talking about you, if you don't believe it applies to you, go in peace. And they have absent fathers or weak and ineffectual or violent fathers. And I think that gay men's obsessions with women like Madonna, Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Cher, the pantheon of female idols that gay men have, are gay men subconsciously negotiating with their relationship with their mother and themselves. I think we're fascinated and drawn to these cluster B women because they remind us of our mother. And I think that we have, and I do, it is subconscious. I certainly wasn't consciously thinking this when I was a teenager and a guy in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I think we're trying to find a way to relate to her and, quote, get love from her, from this celebrity figure in a safer way than our mother. So I think that's where a lot of this idolatry
and
comes
I mean,
from.
yeah, and you're not going to be doing that with romantic partners insofar as you're not attracted to women. So
Right.
it's only natural that, like, to find that woman figure who's going to be doing that for you is going to be from some source other than a partner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so tired. Everybody, I'm going to do for you my Madonna speaking voice vocal impression from one of her latest tweets. It's so irritating. Let me put it up here and I'll read it to you. Once again, I am caught in the glare of ageism and misogyny that permeates the world we live in. A world that refuses to celebrate women past the age of 45 and feels the need to punish her if she continues to be strong-willed, hardworking, and adventurous. I have never apologized for any of my creative choices I have made, nor the way that I look or dress, and I'm not going to start. I have been degraded by the media since the beginning of my career, but I understand that this is all a test, and I am happy to do the trailblazing so that all the women behind me can have an easier time in the years to come. In the words of Beyonce, you won't break my soul. I look forward to many more years of subversive behavior, pushing boundaries, standing up to the patriarchy, and most of all, enjoying my life. Bow down, bitches. Actually, that's from 2023. She's only gotten worse.
The patriarchy.
The patriarchy.
Please.
The
Please.
misogyny and the patriarchy.
I'm sorry, but we have a much bigger issue with misandry than misogyny, and, like, I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Like,
yeah. It's all a reversal. It's all a complete reversal.
Yeah,
And this is those words from her. This is the feminist cluster B personality, Western white woman mindset.
Totally.
Everything is reversed. They are
absolute all
busting cunts.
Yeah.
And they get men fired from their jobs. They get their reputations ruined with false allegations. They throw tantrums when men don't crawl on the floor and lick the bottom of their high heels, and they call that harassment. It is an abusive relationship, and then they claim that it is men doing all of those things to them. I mean, that diatribe from her
is BPD.
Very BPD, and it's really just a slightly more sophisticated wording of the shit that my mother has spewed out of her mouth her entire life. You know, and my mother was a woman who looked at me as an 8 or 9 year old kid and screamed at me that I was going to grow up to be a useless male piece of shit, just like my deadbeat father. That was what my mother decided was an appropriate way to address her young son. So it's just ridiculous. Let's talk about the misandry problem. Let's talk about the female cluster B problem, because you bang on about this a lot. and you
Yeah,
do
I
it
think
very
it's a
well.
huge issue. Like it was incredibly clear to me from like the first time I worked in an office after school, where it became so apparent so quickly that like all the feminist claptrap we hear is nonsense. Like women are their own worst enemy in the workplace, and they're kind of malicious as well. Like and I guess it was somewhat surprising, at least initially, because I'd gone to an all girls high school, so I'd been surrounded like by women, by girls,
Hmm.
my entire like I guess adult life at that point. And through my adolescence as well. And I'd never seen anything like it. Like it just was like extreme. Um, and
What kinds of
and I also
behaviors did you
found it
see?
just like cutting other people down, just this sort of like malicious bitchiness where they would sort of like say something to your face, but then do all this like horrible stuff that they weren't even concealing behind your back. So it's like they sort of like expect you to play your part, like and to like um treat them as if everything's fine when they're nice to your face. And that's just not my personality. Like I just am real with people. Like if somebody's malicious towards me, I just won't I'm not going to play nice with them. Like, and that's why I found
Right.
this all kind of preposterous that they would like do things behind your back and then behave in this like totally Janus faced way. And I found it extraordinary. And like, I don't know, that sort of helped me realize like that something was kind of rotten in Denmark, as they say. And like the other thing was, I very quickly noticed how often different institutions would have like they would be basically rolling out a red carpet to young women. Like there
Yeah.
was always these extra like opportunities if you're a woman, or we want to like make you especially welcome to women, blah blah blah. But then I start seeing in sort of pop culture and on like panel shows and everywhere else, like all these women speaking about like, victimhood and patriarchy and unfairness and shit. And I'm just like, look, maybe I'm going crazy, but my experience has always been like the exact opposite of this. Like the idea that things are unfair towards us seems to me to be preposterous. It seems like quite the opposite almost. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. It's a lot of this stuff has always sort of bugged me. Like I have this really vivid memory from when I was like I would have been 5 or 6 years old at the hairdressers, and I was reading, those totally garbage magazines that um people read.
Yeah.
There was one that was like this sort of housewives magazine, and they would write into the editor, and I just remember these women would write in and they would refer to their husband as hubby or age, and they would just basically write in like totally slandering their husbands. And I just remember looking at it like, why are you doing this? Like, who would do this? This is awful. Like I don't think I had any advanced theories about it at that age, but I just remember thinking like, this is nasty. This is not nice. Like, why are they doing this? And I
And
don't know,
now
it's
it's
always just,
everywhere. It's everywhere on
yeah,
social
it
media.
really is. And like I don't understand it. Like if you have an issue with your husband, like resolve it between the two of you. Like the idea to me of taking personal things out into the public arena is like I don't like it. Like either resolve it with the person or it's not really an issue and you should stop pretending that it is. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's
I don't know.
it's well, there's a lot of ways to describe it. It's absolutely disloyal behavior.
Yes,
You
that's
don't do
that's
you
my
don't
primary issue with it. Yeah.
and women today think it's absolutely fine, and why wouldn't they? Because they get applauded for it. You go, girl,
Yeah.
you don't need no man, tell him. I just saw one yesterday. It's like, oh, my husband, and I really love him, but his problem is, and I'm thinking to myself, if I were her husband, there would be divorce papers in front of that bitch before she got done filming that TikTok video. One and done.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You are
I've
really
noticed
going to
the
degrade me that way in public? And
Yeah, I've
it's
noticed
not
the TikToks
uncommon.
getting worse. They seem to be getting worse
Yeah, I
lately.
think
Like
so too.
there's like this gnarly side of them where I'm like, this is actually awful. And I think that what they're trying to do is like it's like a permission structure for hideous behavior because women are so mimetic. So like when they see that kind of thing, they will imitate it.
Yes, they will.
And like a lot of men won't realize that what they're dealing with is actually abusive until it gets to an extraordinary like point well past anything acceptable. Like a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, well, a lot of men don't wake up to, they don't see that it's abusive until it's too late, until they have
Yes.
children with her, and now
Yeah.
they're going
Yeah.
to, even if they divorce, you know, those children are now going to be raised.
Well,
This, I mean,
divorcing a cluster B person isn't really a solution because they're going to remain their mother, which means
right?
that you're then going to be battling them for access, which they will deny you if you've
Yes, they
had any
will.
kind of So it's just it's not. You need to front load this rather than trying to resolve it after the fact. There is no easy there are no solutions after the fact. Like
You know, and it's, I don't know how much of this is intrinsically how we are as men. Some of it is just inborn genetic wiring. There are obvious evolutionary reasons why men and women, when they're normal, feel the way they do about each other. Women want a protector and a provider. That's natural and makes biological sense. Men feel protective toward women. They do want to shelter them from danger. They do want to provide for them. These are normal and natural. This is how family formation happens, and it's supposed to be that way. But we've got, there's a stick in the gear right now that's causing it to jump cogs, and I don't know how much of this is men's inborn disposition toward women, and some of it has to be influenced, I think, by the fact that since at least the 1960s, feminism has been the cultural default. Men have been told that we are shit, that our very nature as men, not our behavior, but our nature as men is a threat to women, that we are naturally dangerous to women, that we are the inferior sex, and that conditioning works over time. So, for example, you know, anybody who's watched my show or listened to my show for more than a couple of years, I don't know how long, but knows my story. I've talked in explicit detail about what growing up with my borderline and narcissist mother was like. I've done episodes on it, on just that, to show people what it looks like. She was horrendously abusive to all three of her children while we were children, and it continued after she institutionalized me at 13. I went into a boys' home. She did the same thing to my sister when she reached that age.
right,
And then
the age at which you really start to individuate to an
correct.
extensive
It's
yeah,
always
that
it's
makes
always
sense.
at
Yeah,
that
that
at that
clicks.
part.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
I spent 30 more years
Blaming yourself.
blaming myself and
Yeah.
trying to make it right with my mother, to the point where 12 years ago, this house that I'm sitting in right now, I bought this house as a second house that I could not
Right.
afford to give my mother a place to live, because I'd
That's so
spent,
kind of you.
it was stupid of me.
That's
It
very
was,
kind.
it may be that, but it was also stupid,
Right.
because she was not any different than who she was before. And within 2 years of moving in, I mean, I bought it for her because she was constantly poor. I spent years paying off her back rent so she wouldn't get kicked out of apartments, because she was a lazy welfare queen, as so many
Right.
cluster Bs are, right? But it took me until age 41, and it took the help of my sister being very direct with me. Thank God for my sister. She may join us in a little while. She may show up here.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. They're
That'd be
still
so
putting
cool.
their apartment back together upstairs.
Gotcha.
But she
That's
said
good that
to
you
me,
are still close with her, because often when you have one of those type of parents, like it can cause like permanent division between siblings. So that's
yes.
really
Well,
good.
we were set against each other most of our lives. We
Right.
each thought the
Yeah.
other was crazy because of my mother's triangulation. It was
Right.
only with the
Right.
break with my
Right.
mother that we got to know each other for who we really were.
Oh,
Right.
that's so good. I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear that.
it is a blessing.
Yeah.
It is a blessing. But
That
it
is
took
really
my sister
meaningful. I'm happy
saying
to
to
hear that.
me, Josh, our mother does not have dementia. She doesn't just have depression. She's not getting Alzheimer's. She has a personality disorder. She
So you
is a
can't solve
narcissist.
this.
And you need to
Right.
understand what this is about. And that was a magical light bulb for me. And I did
Oh,
very
that's so good.
quickly figure out what this was about. But it took
Yeah,
me
because
until
once you have
41
a
to stop putting up
label,
with it.
yeah, once you have a label, it really does make like understanding much easier because you're sort of then formulating something that is actually a thing rather than it just being this like walking in the dark and this constant like cycling that you can't put a finger on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aimee, was there a point in your life when you considered yourself a feminist?
No, never. That's one thing that I've always been very, very consistent about. I even during high school, it wasn't really something that came up in high school, but the earliest where sort of people would ask you that question, like in university and that sort of thing, I would just be like, "What are you talking about? Like, women have equal rights." It seems entirely redundant. Like, it's not something that I've ever affiliated with or had time for, to be honest.
So it never made sense to you even when you were
Never made any
younger?
sense whatsoever. No.
I wonder what insulated you from that.
I think I was looking at the way my mom treated my dad, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Because it's like, well, if we live in, like it was very obvious to me at least that um like a huge part of what enabled this kind of behavior to occur in the dark was the fact that like there's nothing a man can do that won't end up with him essentially like being arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So like if that's the world that we live in, the idea that we need like we lived in a world that was enabling this as far as I could tell. And so many people, like especially like when I would, when we'd contact the police and they would rock up at our place to deal with my mom's violence, they would
Oh,
say
so
things
so you had a childhood where there were police calls made about your mother?
oh yeah, yeah, shit was like very real. Like I don't talk about it usually, but there was a lot of violence, not just like verbal, but like actual, like all the time. And it got worse and worse through to my 20s where eventually like I as soon as I turned 18 I just started getting AVOs to keep her away from me. um
ABO, can you spell that out for
oh
people?
sorry, AVO in Australia is an apprehended violence order, and
Sounds.
so they
Go ahead.
oh yeah, I imagine in the States I think they're called like a restraining order, that kind of thing.
Yes, that's what I figured it was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and you can step them up in terms of the stipulations as well. And so initially it might be something to the effect of just like barring that person from doing anything to you or whatever, but then you can get like ones with like proximity distance
Yep.
stipulations, so they can't come within X amount of feet of where you live or whatever, where you live or work, that kind of thing. And I just kept escalating them, and like my dad generally on the rare occasions where like where he would end up having to call the police, he wouldn't follow through in terms of giving evidence when she went to trial, like 6 weeks later or whatever. And the way I saw it was just that like you can't expect the police to be there for you and to like deal with this shit only at the emergency stage. Like you need to like follow through and actually make there be consequences, because otherwise she's not going to stop. The only thing that will stop is really firm boundaries, and if you can't implement them, then the state can, and that's just what I'm going to do with this thing. Like it doesn't work for me to just back off as soon as the absolute emergency has gone away, because it's going to happen again. So like I don't know. I think my dad, obviously being in love with her, had like and also as you were saying earlier, that idea of protect and provide is so strong in my dad that like he felt a sense of obligation towards this person, even though yeah, it was just yeah. So I
Is
sort of like
there
I
is there an what's this what's the end of the story with your mom and dad? Are they still alive? Are they still married? Did something else happen?
they're both together still. They're sorry, not together. They're both alive
They're
still.
both okay.
They're not together at all.
Okay.
They divorced about 15 years ago.
Okay.
But unfortunately, yeah, the my mom was not the last BPD person that my dad was involved with. So,
Oh, I'm
oh, not the
sorry, but
last
not
cluster
surprised
B
to hear that.
person. Sorry, not the last cluster B person. The next one wasn't BPD. She was just a malignant narcissist. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
family
my
therapist, actually a renowned one, as it were.
oh, this is my
Yeah,
shocked face.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
There are so many cluster
So
Bs
many.
who are therapists.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It's just It's just unbelievable. And I know men like this who go from one abusive woman to another.
Yeah,
And
I feel bad for him because they're not together anymore. So they did separate eventually, but it just drove my relationship with my dad to a large extent, like, because she was
sounds
so
like
malicious.
it sounds like he never realized what was going on. It sounds, or he
I
never
think
made the
on some
connection.
level, he did, but I think he also to some extent dissociated from like the implications of it, because he had to, he was running a business that he had to manage like on his own effectively, and there was 3 of us that he was putting through private schools. So I sort of, I don't hold it against him, but the second one in particular was, she was fucking evil. And I think the real difference also is that like ultimately, like the reproduction of her genes didn't depend on like his kids at all. In fact, we were a threat to the resources that her kids had effectively, like in a combined family. And so like just in terms of evolutionary, like that there is no evolutionary incentive for a woman to be accommodating or kind towards her husband's children if they're
Right.
not also
Or
her
vice
children,
versa, or a father
and vice
too.
versa.
Yep.
But the irony is that like my dad was so accommodating, kind with her kids, and she was just feral. Anyway, eventually they separated, so whatever. But it's sad too, like because I definitely think she was, I think she was preying upon someone in his position, because she was fully aware of it and like took full advantage of it, and like kind of like I do think there's a kind of grooming that can take place at times with this. Like if you know that somebody, like a guy, is in a really difficult place with this type of thing, and you're a professional, and you weaponize like your professional knowledge, and you pretend to be empathetic and understanding, and then like it's not until you've got them fully locked down that the mask starts to drop, then like that
Yes.
is fucking malicious, I think.
It
But,
is.
yeah.
It is. I see it all the time.
And the other thing I think also for men that's really different is that most will tend to be quite stoic and private about these things. And so they don't have any external outlets. They don't talk about it in the culture. They're not like gasbagging about it with their friends all the time, that kind of thing. Like most guys are relatively private. And there's also, I think, a lot of shame around this as well, because like it's such a subversion or inversion of what's supposed to be the norm. Like the idea that a woman could be abusive or malicious. It's like most guys just blame themselves when they can't get
Yes.
their relationship right. They don't realize that they're actually like, that the person they're in the relationship with is making it impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible to have a normal relationship with a person like this, because that person is not normal. Their
Oh, it's always,
personality is not
an
normal.
abusive relationship without like question. It can't be anything but, yeah.
That's the kind of clarity from you that I really appreciate. There's no sort of like, well, it's very nuanced. No, this is not
No,
one
it's
of
not
those
that
nuanced
nuanced.
things.
It's that they use their intimate partners to regulate their dysregulated emotions. So it's not
Yep.
possible for them to be anything other than abusive. Like
Yeah,
that's just the
they
nature
are
of the
fundamental.
beast.
That is what cluster B means.
Yeah,
Cluster B means that person is dysfunctional and abusive. And let
100%.
me try to, in vain, fend off a little bit that I'll get back from that. Yes, I know some of you want to talk about the quiet borderlines, the girls who really just internalize all their problems and don't externalize it onto other people. First of all, there's not as many of them as you think there are. Secondly, people who internalize that way, it always becomes external too. They always become a burden. They always become exploitative. Whether they consciously mean to do this or not, they always become an extraordinary stressor and a source of sorrow in a relationship. So even if you know somebody like that who isn't violent and doesn't try to be hurtful, they are enormously enervating. They will sap your emotional energy, your physical energy, because everything is about them and they must be catered to all the time.
Yeah, there's a reason they call them like energy vampires, emotional vampires.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Energy vampires is definitely the right way to do it. I want to take a little break here to remind you that if you have not subscribed to this channel, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble, please take a moment right now while I'm speaking. I'll even give you a couple of seconds to do it. It actually matters and it really helps. Please hit the subscribe button, but don't just hit the subscribe button. Click on the notifications as well on YouTube and select all for your notifications so you don't miss anything. If you just click notifications and you let YouTube choose what it calls personal, sometimes it'll tell you when we've got new stuff coming up, sometimes it won't. The black box algorithm decides. So subscribe, then click all on the notification bell, and please do the same on Rumble. The more you subscribe, the more you give likes to this, the more will show up in algorithms. And believe me, I've been doing this for 5 years. It is hard for us to break through. You know, we are still, I believe, I'll never be able to prove this because that's how Kafka information asymmetry works. And all of these tech companies work that way. I'll never be able to prove it, but I think we're probably disfavored pretty heavily in the YouTube algorithm. So help us out with that. And if you want to support the show and help make it possible, both the live stream and the flagship show on Sunday, I've got a new option for you. You want to give a one-off donation, you can buy me a coffee. Go to ko.fi, coffee, ko-fi.com/disaffected. That is ko-fi.com/disaffected. And what I will do is put it in the chat for you. Ko-fi. Buy Daddy a coffee. I got to do it over here too. Okay. Aimee, let's ask for some audience input here. We can have some interesting conversation. Most of the people, not all of them, but most of the people who watch the show have some personal experience with cluster B as well. Happened in their family.
I'd imagine that's the case. Yeah.
They've seen it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we get interesting stories. So I'm just going to say to all of you guys who are watching and listening right now on YouTube and Rumble, like, I'm sorry I can't see any comments on Twitter or X. Haven't figured out how to do that yet. But if you have questions for Aimee, or if you have something that you want her to riff on, you know, bring them out here and I'll read some of your comments out. Let me go back and get a couple in here already.
I have a question for you, Josh.
Yes, Aimee.
If that's okay.
Sure.
So I was just thinking about this because in relation to what you were saying about the Madonna thing earlier, and I got to thinking, like, yeah, how like straight guys who have got a mother who is that way inclined will tend to repeat it often with like the women that they date. But and then I was thinking, like, often what happens, like, with women who've grown up in like a cluster B family is that they'll be far too tolerant of that in men. Do you, is it the same when you're gay? Like, do you find that like you're too acculturated to that kind of bullshit and it makes you kind of blind to it sometimes in guys, or is that not really the case? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I think generally, and then I can tell you what I think my response to it was personally.
Gotcha. Yeah.
First of all, I have observed, and I do believe is true, that the majority of grown homosexual men have a cluster B mother or close enough in the neighborhood. The correlation is strikingly obvious.
Not coincidental. Yeah,
it's not coincidental, and in fact, it was knowledge that was known both culturally and in the psychiatric literature for most of the 20th century until it became not okay to say it.
Yep, they started burying it in the 80s.
They buried it. They buried it in the 80s, and it still remains buried. And if you're younger, I'm 51. Any of you who are significantly younger than me, if this is a shock to you, I am telling you the truth. If you were out on the street 40 years ago and just having a casual conversation, your average person would say, yeah, I think, you know, I don't have anything against gay people, but they generally, you know, they didn't have a good father figure. Their mothers are screwed up and they were often sexually abused. That was not considered unspeakable. That was not off the menu. That was normal.
Well known. Yeah. Or like that was sort of the perception anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've already, when you're talking about gay men, and well, and lesbians too, there's differences, but the rate of mental illness, drug addiction, and personality pathology in
Yeah, it's
homosexuals
very
is
high.
off the
Yeah.
charts compared to the
Yeah.
background population. So a
Yeah.
lot of these people are already borderlines, histrionics, and narcissists anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to them, this is normal.
Yeah.
But with gay men, what I find generally happening is men marry their mothers, and gay men also marry their mothers. It's just that we don't
I
sleep
see.
with them.
Okay.
Okay. They become our
Okay.
best friends. There are fag hags where they're fags.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes
I had
sense.
so many of those. I've had good, warm, reciprocal friendships with women.
Yeah.
But the majority of my friendships with women were mutually dysfunctional. I
Okay.
was trying to grasp for maternal comfort and validation from them, and they were
Right.
trying to grasp validation from a safe male from me. And so we
Right. Okay.
tend to, not even intentionally, but we end up using each other out of our
Using each
damage,
other.
right?
Okay. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
you see that an awful lot. But when it comes to partnering up, see, partnering up doesn't happen as much among gay men. I mean, everybody talks about it, but the reality is the majority of gay men are just sluts.
Okay. Right.
It's
that's
true.
what I thought.
It's true. They're just sluts.
I mean,
I
it's
was a
fine.
slut. I did it.
I don't
I lived the
judge.
whole gay lifestyle. I slept promiscuously. I lost count of the number of men I slept with. I'm absolutely typical of that gutter
Well,
behavior.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense given that women are like the gatekeepers of sex historically.
Yeah,
whereas
there's
men
no
are the
female
gatekeepers
moderation
of
between two men.
relationships. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, one of the funny sayings is that the kind of sex gay men have, straight men would do this too if their women would put up with it.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I think about that. Let me get a couple of comments here. Pop Art New Jersey says, curious if Josh has seen the movie The Ref. Glynis Johns was spot on as Kevin Spacey's major cluster B mother grandmother. No, I haven't, but thank you for that, because I've got a list of movies with cluster B characters, and I'm going to add that one to it. That'll be on my watch list. Let's see what else.
I was talking about this with a friend just recently,
Yeah.
how the experience of having like the experience of any kind of intimate relationship with a cluster B personality is like, it sort of defies explanation, or it defies like words. You can't really convey it to a third party with words. And then I was like, I think that's why like film enables you to communicate things that like mere words cannot. I think
Yes.
insofar as it like conveys like atmosphere in a way that is a lot
Yes.
more accurate. Yeah.
I think you're right. And I think the other thing behind that is the way, like, people, you can go to the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, and there's a lot of problems with it. I mean, it's just out of control, but you can go to it, look up borderline personality disorder, and read the 9 criteria and put that up against a person, and you can get some information out of that. That's one tool that can help categorize people, but it's not the only tool. And in fact, I don't even think it's the most effective. The way people ask me, well, how do you tell if somebody's cluster B? Well, you tell by their behavior. And one of the ways to do it, and this is not mine, this comes from a guy named Bill Eddy, and he runs a great organization called the High Conflict Institute. High Conflict Institute. That group is set up, it's an organization to help businesses who are dealing with what they call high conflict employees. And that's just another way of saying
that's a euphemism. Yeah.
I understand why they use it.
I do too.
And a lot of their blogs, explicitly reference things like borderline and narcissism. But Bill Eddy has something called the 90-10 rule. And I think it's really useful, and I urge everybody to adopt it as a tool that you use. If you're looking at somebody who's behaving in an extraordinary way, it seems extreme, over the top, acontextual, really uncomfortable, is messing up the work dynamic or the friend dynamic, and you're trying to figure out, did she have a point? I mean, is it me? Am I not being sympathetic enough? Use the 90-10 rule, and that's to ask yourself, take this situation and put it in people you don't know. Imagine some people you don't know. Imagine you're just watching this as an outside observer, and you look at that person who's puzzling to you, and you look at her behavior. What would 90% of people you know do in that situation? Would they do what she did, or would only 10% of the people that you know do what she did? And if the answer is only 10% of the people, you're almost always dealing with a cluster B or a high conflict person. It's a really good rule of thumb. It isn't perfect, but it's a great discriminator.
Yeah, that is quite a useful little test. Yeah.
Right. It's related to the Western legal concept of the reasonable person.
The reasonable man, yeah.
Right. Is he or is he not behaving as you would expect a reasonable person to act in that situation? If the answer is no, that's a pretty good indicator that you're dealing with a problem personality. But the other way, to pick on what you said, Aimee, about film being a good way to communicate this, that is because I have really good radar for cluster B.
Same at that level at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and Aimee, I know you do too. And many of you who are here today have really good radar for it too. It's how they make you feel.
Yeah, it's that.
It's how it hits your gut and your intuition. And I'm not being metaphysical. I'm not being woo-woo. I'm not suggesting that anybody has psychic power. Maybe you do, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying your gut, your intuition is actually subconscious information processing. It's not metaphysical.
Yes,
it's not magic. It's subconscious. Your brain is taking in all this sensory data. It's taking in tone of voice. It's taking in facial expression. It's taking in body posture. It's taking in word choice. It's taking on movement and gait. And it's taking all of that in and subconsciously processing it. And the output that you get after the processing is a feeling, a sensation, a psychological, sometimes physical sensation. Is it perfect? No, it is not perfect, but it is damn good. When your gut, when you feel queasy, when you feel off, when you feel anxiety ridden and you feel to yourself, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about this guy that makes me not want to be at the lunch table with him. That's real information. You're picking up on something real. And most of the time you're picking up on the fact that he is a cluster B. So why are movies so good at this? Because you perceive their affect. You can see and feel it. So for example, the movie Mommy Dearest, right? Mommy Dearest is the 1981 film based on Christina Crawford's 1978 book called Mommy Dearest. It's an autobiographical book about what it was like to be the adopted daughter of Joan Crawford. It was the first Hollywood child abuse memoir. It was the very first one. No one had done it before. And Christina Crawford paid an extremely high reputational price. Hollywood rounded against her, called her a liar, said that she was the one who abused her mother, Joan Crawford. Complete cluster B reversal because they were all acting as enablers and flying monkeys to this woman who had this golden pedestal reputation. But when you watch that movie, if you go online and you look at reviews of the movie or you watch people talking about it, the most common thing you'll see is it was so over the top, it was funny. It was so unbelievably histrionic, nobody could act that way. It isn't true. Faye Dunaway's performance as Joan Crawford in that movie was absolutely spot on. I lived it. That was my mother. The only difference between what Christina Crawford went through and what I went through is they were rich and famous and Joan Crawford was beautiful and charming. We were poor and lived in a trailer court. And my mother was not beautiful and we didn't have money. So it was Mommy Dearest in a trailer park, but that affect, that the facial expressions, all of that is how you know, you feel it. That's what I think, Aimee. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I just find myself wondering this specific question. Like something we noticed as kids was the way my mom just had this like outward persona versus like who she was at home or like who she was privately. Did your mom have this like specific voice that she used on the phone and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So it would be like she would be yelling at me because
Yes.
I didn't eat my lima beans. She'd be like, you are not getting up from this goddamn table
Yeah.
until you finish that, mister. Bring. Hello.
Yes, fully. That rapid, like that rapid fire
Shift.
ability to just do, yeah, that was something that from from a very young age, I was just like, that's not normal. Like there's something wrong with that. I don't like that. Like also the ability to just, yeah, seamlessly shift between the two. I found it to be very uncanny. I don't know.
Uncanny is just the right
yeah.
word. Just the right word. Yeah. Yeah, there's a good comment here I want to highlight. October Art 66 says, I have to say I've had the more intense crushes on guys who eventually resemble my larger than life father, who I've recently found has fallen into the histrionic quadrant of the cluster B graph. October, I don't find that surprising. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. But all of us do tend to be attracted to mates who remind us in some way of our parents, whether our parents are good, bad, or in between.
We're attracted to familiarity rather than like functionality. Right. Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me at all. And I mean, I'll tell it. Your Pop Art New Jersey, October Art. Thank you very much. I still don't know if you're a man or a woman. I know I'm not supposed to X you your gender. But I'm Xing you your gender. Actually, Shelby is Xing you your gender. Aimee, you do not know Shelby, but she was my first lady boss when I was a cub reporter in Virginia, and Shelby looked like a lady. She was white, but she sort of talked like she had been black, and she had helmet hair in a perm. And she had frosted pink lipstick and manicured nails, what had the sparklers on them. And she was a very tough customer. And she drove up to the office every day that she came into work in a great, big, long, white Cadillac. Wow. And she had a particular way of answering the phone at the newspaper. Would you like me to do it for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. And she was one of them ladies what wore her mouth upside down. She was perpetually dissatisfied.
Right.
So she would
scowl. Yeah.
Bring. Amos Nelson Publishing. One of these days, I'm going to do a whole show as Shelby.
Yeah, that's funny.
I got myself off track here.
Having a female boss will do it as well. It's so funny. That's sort of like the one arena in which women are still honest in surveys, where like no matter how many times they attempt to replicate this, like hoping for a different outcome, it's like nope. Even like something like 85% of women like prefer a male boss over a female boss.
It's the most common thing that women I've talked to have told me about their working experience.
Yeah,
that working under a female boss was a nightmare.
Nobody wants a female boss. Yeah, absolutely not.
So I got myself all off track doing that impression. What was I going to move on to here? Let's see. Let me look for some more comments. Oh, October Art was talking about being attracted to guys who remind them of their father. I'm going to keep doing this until you tell me if you're a man or a woman. This is one of the reasons why I've decided to be single and celibate. I have other reasons too. I won't get into any grotesque details or anything, but I do genuinely believe that what I call my sexuality for me is largely a trauma response. And I think that I'm doing myself damage when I indulge it. That's the personal decision I've made for myself. I'm not telling anyone else that their homosexuality has to be the same thing. That's just my stuff. But another reason I've decided to is because my attraction, well, it's part of the same reason my attraction is screwed up. The reality is I get sexually turned on by men who turn out to be narcissistic or psychopathic.
Yeah, I
So
can relate to that.
it's not uncommon, right?
Yeah.
It's like the straight men who are really, really turns their crank when they've got that crazy hot borderline girl, right?
Yeah.
Because cluster Bs, not all of them, but when they're sexy, they are sexy. That crazy hot girl really is crazy hot.
Well, there's
That
also a real polarity between men and women, and like I feel like borderline is in many ways like a like many aspects of it are a cranked up variation
version of
on like
femininity.
femininity, but
Yes.
taken to an extreme. And then like narcissism is very much that with men. The sort of like the grandiosity,
Yes.
the competence, the
Mhm.
control, like taking things over, managing things. Like there are like admirable qualities like in those personalities that are
Yes.
admirable, but
Yes.
it just comes with so much like horror that whether it's worth, well, it's not worth it obviously, but like it's
Yeah.
very, I think it can be quite difficult early on to differentiate between like somebody who is just my type and is not problematic versus somebody who is and is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm really glad you said that because it's one way of reducing this to something bite size is to a close approximation. Borderline personality is the womanist woman. And to a close approximation, narcissism, sociopathy is the manist man, right? They're both
Yeah.
caricatures of masculinity and femininity taken to
Yes,
the
exact
extreme.
caricatures. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So those of us, and I said a few minutes ago that crazy hot borderline girl is attractive to men. There's probably some projection in there because it may not be that these people are universally sexually attractive. It may be that they're particularly sexually attractive to damaged people like me, right? Who were born and raised in that. It might be my own weakness more than it is their actual
Well,
attractive quality.
there's a lot of data suggesting this is the case though.
Really, is there?
Yeah.
Okay. I do see decent guys who don't appear to be walking around with a lot of unresolved trauma. I do see them fall for these girls a lot.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You see it too. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, it's also like it's like that particular personality type like um deploys all these tactics because they're effective. So like were they not effective, they would stop using them. So of
that's
course they're
true.
going to be like tapping into particular masculine tendencies.
Yeah. So,
I do
I mean,
wonder whether that's like whether that will change through time or sort of what it looks like in like for example Generation Z who tend to be like a lot more gender goblin like in terms of like
gender goblin. Yeah.
well they just seem a lot less polarized in terms of like the way they see certain things is yeah different. I've noticed but yeah.
Yeah. Well, my hope is I hope we will get back as the generations turn over. I hope we will get back to something better resembling normal.
We need to
With
take women out of the workplace for that to be possible, I think.
all right, expand on that. What do you
Well,
what's
I
your
think that
give your
basically the
prescription, whether it's realistic or not. What are the
well,
kinds of things
yeah, it's
you think needs to
unrealistic,
happen?
obviously, but I just think that ultimately, like evolutionary wise, like it only quite a small number of men actually reproduced. But what we did in the 20th century was made it possible for a much larger proportion of men to reproduce and have their own family because they could protect and provide. And I think that once we sent all women into the workforce and like got every female doing like college degrees and all this other crap, it just rendered like men to a large extent redundant to them. And so
Yes.
I think you have basically two avenues. Like either you somehow manage to make it so that like all women um, are love men as men for who they are and not for some kind of resource exchange, But ultimately, like, that's not really the way these things work. Like, people partnered up because they wanted to have children and because each of them brought something different to the table. And so when you eliminate men's ability to bring something to the table, then a huge number of women are just not going to bother with it. And I think that that's just like dysfunctional. It's a society. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. There's a phenomenon that happens. There's a phrase, I'm not going to get it exactly right, that says once women come into a space, that becomes women's space by default. And I
Oh
think
yeah, they take over. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of truth to that. You remember, Aimee, I think my guess is you're probably about 15 years younger than me, maybe more.
thereabouts. Yeah.
But so I don't know if this was the case, and you're Australian, but I mean, Western cultures are very similar, right?
Very
It's
similar.
not
Yeah.
that different. When I was a kid, you would still hear the phrase, like if your parents, or if you were over at somebody's house and people were having dinner and there were grown-ups and there were some kids there, people used to entertain at home a lot more than they do now. And a guy started making an off-color or risque joke, another man would say to him, "Hey, we're in mixed company." And
Yeah, I've heard that phrase. Yeah.
what that meant was that there are women and children present, and we don't talk blue in front of women and children, right? That was just considered manners. Because it is true that women are more sensitive to that. Women like to talk in a different way, in a different register. And obscene jokes are not appropriate for children either. But there's no such thing anymore because everything is now women's space. Everything is mixed company. Your office, if there are enough women in there, everybody has to go down to that level. The guys can't cut up with each other anymore. They can't make casual remarks without saying, "Are you talking about me? Oh my God, that felt sexist." It just happens everywhere. And I honestly, I think this is, I don't care if I sound like an old school conservative Christian. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't think it's natural for men and women to mix and mingle and work together 24 hours a day in equal numbers
it's not.
everywhere like it is.
It's not
I don't think it's
healthy.
natural or healthy.
It's not healthy. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think, Aimee?
No, men need male time, like lots of it. Because like the other thing that women don't even realize is that like they're creating the kinds of like effeminate pussies that they'll fucking hate and resent.
Yep.
Like anyway, like listening to women is not what women actually want. Because like I don't know, we just tend to, no, we don't like it. Like we want somebody to say no, and I think that so much of what we're seeing in society is this like escalation of female misbehavior because they're so desperate for somebody to fucking say no, somebody to stop them. Like, I think a lot of what we're seeing, like you know how earlier in the year there was all the ICE controversy. I think a huge number of these women,
I have
like,
some thoughts about that.
The ICE agent is like the last remaining like
real
vestige of like a real masculine figure who will stop them.
Yep.
And like sadly it had to one of them ended up getting shot, but like that's really like where boundaries like actually like it's sort of this final like boundary of sorts, this final frontier, because everywhere else they've managed to get men to bend the knee and just tolerate and turn a blind eye to all their bullshit. And so I just feel like on some level that really was like this symbolic thing, but it was meaningful at the same time.
Yeah. Well, let's make it even more spicy.
Okay.
Here's what I think. I think the great majority of these hysterical leftist women, and when I say hysterical leftist women, there are the extreme ones, but I'm afraid, my friends, that I'm including self-labeled conservative women in here too. They may call themselves conservative, but they are leftist feminists. Tommy Lahren is a great example. That woman is not a conservative. She is a complete cunt. She is a nasty, self-centered bitch. And
But
she
I think
spends,
this is just women across the aisle. Like even conservatives are in fact that way inclined. Like they are conservative, but conservatives are leftists basically.
yeah,
Like
basically.
yeah.
But all of these women who complain about toxic masculinity and they henpeck and nitpick the tiniest little verbal slippages that men make around them or their husbands. This is all a camouflage and sort of a reverse magical spell to cover up what's really going on. And what's really going on is these women crave men and masculinity so much because they've never had it. They either did not have fathers, or the fathers they had were pussies who never told them no, and daddy's little princessed them the whole time. Fathers are necessary for both boys and girls. They teach us boundaries. They teach us consequences in ways that mothers can't. Mothers do it in their own way, but we have been missing the fatherly influence. All of us have.
Yeah, the first 3 years of childhood, like that's when I think really, really, really do need a mum. But thereafter, I think like the fatherly influence is the most important in
Yeah,
terms of helping you to individuate and like understand
absolutely.
like boundaries and
So this
that sort of thing.
acting out that we're seeing from these screeching leftist bitches, this is sexual. They are
Yeah, it
trying to
is. Yeah.
they are trying to provoke men to punish them.
Yeah, they want to.
They want to be spanked.
They want to be. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, it's true.
No, I agree. That's the way I read it as well. That's how I've always read it.
And I'm going to try to thread a needle here. I'm not going to get grotesque and I'm not going to get explicit, but I do have to work blue a little bit to tell you why I think this. In gay male culture, gay male sexual, well, all of gay male culture is sexuality. There isn't anything about being gay that isn't sexual. I'm sorry, we don't have some grand artistic and philosophical agenda out here. It's just about dick. The most popular erotic themes for gay men in the bedroom, in erotica, in straight up porn, in identity and costuming and all this stuff is dominance and submission and daddy boy. The vast majority of gay men, not all, but the vast majority are looking for a very masculine man to sort them right out. There is a reason why BDSM is overwhelmingly the most popular kink among gay men. My belief, and I think this applies to me, and I think it applies to most gay men. But again, if it doesn't apply to you, I'm not saying it applies to you. I think homosexuality is largely a father-shaped hole. It is a lack. We did not have masculine formation. We did not have masculine guidance. We did not have a safe but firm example of what a father is. We didn't have the father figure in our formative years. We crave masculinity. Most gay men, whether they will admit it or not, feel like failed men. We couldn't make it. We're not real men like the rest of them. So what we neuroticize, we also eroticize. And yeah, I have a lot of personal experience with this, but I'm not just projecting. I see it in fellow gay men. I know what I'm seeing.
Well, yeah,
I think
this was,
the same
I
thing is
think,
going on
once
for women.
relatively well known. Yeah, it's like you're not saying something totally crazy. It was like pretty well known that this was like a really big factor. I also, I think part of the whole thing in terms of trauma responses too is that one of the few ways that you can get over trauma is by repeating the trauma, but being a different, playing a different part in it or enabling it to end differently. And so you can appreciate why recreating certain things in that respect would be, people would be driven with this kind of repetition compulsion to try to.
Thank you for saying repetition compulsion. You're absolutely right. That is the reason why those of us who come from abusive families recreate that over and over. We're looking for a do-over. We don't know it consciously, but we're looking for a do-over.
It's subconscious, absolutely.
That also explains why Hollywood television and movie scripts, and not just contemporaneously, but all throughout time, have often been so unrealistic. There'll be a villainous character who, within the space of a 30-minute episode, learns something important and becomes a kinder person. Most people who go to Hollywood, actors, actresses, writers, directors, are traumatized people. Normal, stable people with a healthy conception of self are not usually attracted to being rich and famous in a place like Hollywood. That is a place where traumatized children go. And I think we get these unrealistic characters who all of a sudden become not a narcissist because the writer is subconsciously trying to make their childhood do-over come true.
Yeah,
I think that's what's
interesting.
going on.
Never thought about it that way.
I want to thank a couple of people. Mediocre Witch, $5. Thank you very much. She says, I work in a nearly all-female spa. Nightmare. Being one of only 2 girls at my old kitchen job was so much nicer.
Yeah, I love, like, I've always been welcome in male spaces. I think in part because I'm pretty clever, so I found that I'd be in male spaces in view of like merit. And
Yep.
like, yeah, I've never been one of those girls who felt the need to like drag the rest of the females in with me. Like, maybe I'm a terrible person for that, but like I do prefer it that way.
I've known a lot of women who've said the same thing. CB75075, $10. Thank you very kindly, sir. He says, narcissistic men look like wolves, and both sexes are attracted by evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Men see them as alpha leaders. Gay men and women find them sexy. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
100%. Yeah.
You know, because the confidence is a proxy. It's not a 100% correlation. It can be misleading, and cluster B is one of the ways where it's misleading. But confidence and a certain arrogance in a man is a proxy for
I love arrogance in a man.
Well, yeah, I know. Do you see why I don't date?
Bad.
I'm like,
I'm so
swing.
Bad. Yeah. No, it's a problem.
But it's a proxy for competence, you know, and
exactly.
somebody who can protect you and keep you safe. So it's easy to see why. But the cluster B version is the super distilled, concentrated dose of it. So when I was 17, I got drugged and raped. And
oh my God, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not saying it to elicit. Sorry, I
know.
There's a point to it. Thank you, but it's a long time ago. It's, you know, I'm not walking around crying every day. But I was 50% responsible for what happened to me because I put myself in a situation that I knew better. Now, I was 17 and I was on the brink of homelessness. I was a very troubled kid and I needed guidance. Yes. But also I didn't have any sense. I was raised in cluster B. And I was just acting. And at that point in my life, I think I qualified for a borderline personality diagnosis, at least on paper. And there was a guy named Jonathan who was probably the most beautiful man I have ever seen in my life. He looked quite literally like the archetype of Superman, down to the hair, the handsome square jaw, the perfect body. I mean, he was drop dead, insanely gorgeous and sexy. And I was really hot for him, but he was a piece of shit. He was a drug dealer and he was a manipulator. I knew he had a bad reputation, but I ended up going back to his house with him because I thought, well, I want to fool around. I don't want to go all the way, but I want to fool around. And I went over and I was already
really how this works.
That's not how it works. And that's not how it worked. And I was already drunk. No, I'm not saying I was drugged to cover up for my being drunk. I know the difference between being drunk and being drugged. This was a sensation I never had before. I definitely was roofied or something similar. And while I was unconscious, he raped me up the ass. And that was a psychopath. I was attracted to a narcissistic psychopath because I was really hot for the guy, but I didn't want to go all the way, but I put myself right into the lion's mouth. And I see this happening. I see so many young women that this happens to. I see a lot of them that complain. A lot of this Me Too stuff is actually shit that's just blown out of proportion, that does not meet the definition of sexual assault, let alone rape, but some of it does.
Well, I mean,
And
we've also stopped telling women how to protect themselves because we've devolved that all to men and make it as though you should be able to walk down the street butt naked and
you
expect
can't
nobody
do
to
that.
wolf whistle or assault you. It's like, get a grip. Like this
Yep.
whole like attitude is ridiculous, and it eliminates the possibility of preventative like advocacy, because then they start crying about victim blaming. It's like, I'm not victim
Yep.
blaming. I'm just giving you suggestions that are going to reduce the likelihood that you meet a terrible fate. So grow up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's, you know, that's one reason why I don't like, I have a lot of reasons why I don't think I'm not relationship material. I'm damaged in particular ways that make me hard work for other people in a kind of intimate relationship. And I'm not willing to subject them to that. And I don't think I know how to do it right. So that's me. I'm the bachelor. Um, but I would say to anybody who has a history, man, woman, gay or straight, if any of you have a history of hooking up with or starting relationships with abusive people, um, that's you. That's a vulnerability in you. I'm not saying this in a judgmental or a blaming way. I'm saying this in a realistic and responsible way. There's a reason why you keep being attracted to these people. There's a reason why, to this day, even though I'm celibate, I jokingly say this to my girlfriends, but it's not really a joke. If you're considering a guy and you want to know whether you should go forward with him, show me a little video, writing, and pictures. If I find him attractive and sexy, he's probably a narcissist, and you should stay away from him. You know,
Funny.
I can at least identify it. I'm not going to act on it,
Yeah.
but my inclinations are still very much in that way. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. There's a thing that I like my friends and I call BPD face, where they all sort of have like a similar, there's like a look to it that is quite palpable, I think.
what do you mean?
Well, there's this sort of like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of, it's pretty common these days on the internet, but there's this neurotinous look of like these sort of like big bubbly eyes, and they sort of look like incredibly innocent and wide-eyed and like idiotic, kind of. I don't
Are
know.
you talking
It's
about
just,
women, girls, or
yes,
both?
yeah. Like there's this BPD look that women, like
Oh,
BPD women have. Yeah.
like this. I can't even do it.
Yeah.
Blink, blink.
But yeah, but then they're like that is, I can imagine that like behind closed doors they'd have like another look that's like much more like a scowl.
Yeah.
But yeah, but their internet look is this just like wide-eyed, like
Yeah. I'm just a little girl. Yeah,
yeah, exactly that.
mhm,
That's it. Yeah.
yep. Um, yeah, it's funny because there's some of that signaling. They do use that signaling, that faux innocence, the putting on the
That
affect of
boo
a
thing.
harmless little
Yeah.
waif.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
But then there's another type who she plays the brat bitch card, and she thinks that makes her really sexy. So she's the girl who she never answers a question straight. It's always sarcasm and an insult, and she always says things like lol, lmao, whatever. You know, that sort of that put on bitch insouciance.
Yeah, I caught myself doing that when I was like 15, 16. Like where, yeah, no, really, like, and I learned later, like, I discovered what negging was. I'm like, I didn't even know this was a thing, but I was doing it reflexively as like a 16-year-old. And then I sort of, I realized that like I didn't like that in myself. There was
Yeah.
something like kind of rude and unkind in it that was not actually who I was,
Yeah.
and I cut
Yeah,
it the
it's
fuck out.
teenager
But
behavior.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
bratty teenager behavior that we're supposed to grow out of, but we see grown people doing it.
Well, it's really, I realized that it was a cope. Like it was a way of being standoffish that enabled me to like not feel like anxious or insecure. But then I got to a point where I was like, I don't actually need to put on that kind of idiocy to like feel comfortable.
Right. Oh, you know what? Somebody had a question I'm going to answer. I think it was Granny Panties. Um, I can't read your name without
That's
laughing.
fun.
I think you were asking about this radio. I think you were asking if it's new. Well, obviously it isn't new. It's a I think it's an early 30s model. I've had it for a while, but I just moved it over to feature it. It does work. It's AM and shortwave. So you on the dial, you can sort of, South Pacific, blah, blah, blah. I haven't listened in for a while, but you can, with the right atmospheric conditions, you can get shortwave broadcasts, whatever remain of those, from the other side of the world. Kevin, the other half of
That's so cool.
Disaffected, refurbished this for me. That's one of his hobbies. He's
That's
probably got
awesome.
100 various of these radios in various states in the house, but this was a gift from Kevin. And
That's so cool.
it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite things. Let's see, what else was I going to say here? Let me do one more time. I'm going to throw it out to you guys in the chat. If you've got questions for Aimee or questions that you want us to riff on, we'll go for a few more minutes, but give us your questions, give us your comments, and I'll toss them over to Aimee and we'll see what comes out of it. So what are you thinking about? Yeah, I love the antique radio too. Oh, Granny Panties is Sherry. Oh, hi, Sherry. Excellent. You guys, I'm out on social media under my own name or under Disaffected, and everybody knows who I am. But like, I see you guys, and you're one thing on Twitter, you're another thing on Substack, you're yet another thing on YouTube. If ever I don't know who you are, forgive me. There's no way for me to know. I don't have a mental table of all the NIMS and the real world stuff. So I always appreciate it if you tell me you know me as so-and-so over here. That's a real help. Thank you.
Yeah, people don't realize how many names and things that are flying up on the screen that you have to keep track of when you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's not possible when you're one person. I mean, like,
yeah.
It's a dynamic that happens, and I'm not saying this, there's no way to say this that doesn't sound like rude, and I don't mean it that way, but I'm in the position of being somebody that a lot of people know, but I can't know all of them. I'm one guy, but there are, thousands of people who listen to the show. I mean, it's still a small show, but I can't keep track of thousands of different identities. So I will make mistakes. It's never personal, guys.
It's funny. Actually, relatively frequently, I get DMs from people apologizing for being rude to me, apparently, and then
and you don't remember who they are.
Eventually realizing that I was correct about X, Y, and Z, and they sort of message me with these very heartfelt apologies, and I'm just there going I have no recollection of any of this. That's no problem at all. Don't worry.
I know.
Totally fine.
I know. I've experienced it too. We've got a question from Jen Atkins. Hey, Jen. She says, what do you think the next few years will be as far as confronting the narcissists?
I think there is something that's going to happen, at least in terms of the women, is that there's going to be a pretty big drop off in terms of narcissist powers fade as they age. And so I think increasingly, as we have huge numbers of single women, I don't know whether they'll probably collectivize to some even greater extent. So that's kind of more of a liability, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of hope, honestly. I mean, obviously I have enough hope I keep doing this, because I don't know what else to do except talk about it and try to get other people to see it, because, my hope, if I have a goal doing the show and doing the writing that I do, it's to get people who could not otherwise put the pieces together to put them together. Because I was one of those people before 10 years ago. I didn't know why any of this was happening. But that's secondary to what I really want, because once you know, then I want your knowledge to motivate your behavior, because we people of goodwill, flawed though I am and flawed though everybody is, we have to take control of this. The problem will not go away. There is nobody who's going to rescue us.
It doesn't solve itself.
We have to change our culture. And we have to know what's going on. We have to know the difference between a legitimate complaint and a ginned up resentment complaint, which is the hallmark of cluster B, and when we're being manipulated. And once we know that, we have to put it into action. That's why so frequently on the show, I say things like, Men have to get comfortable telling women no a lot. Women have to hear the word no a lot more from a lot more men across the board.
Yes,
And this is a really bitter pill, even for women who are not feminists, to swallow. This has even caused anxiety in some of my friendships. And I understand why it does, but I don't apologize and I don't pull back on it. I mean what I say. That what I just said is not a synonym for men should be controlling women and raping them pregnant and chaining them to the stove. It's not even implied
nobody's saying
there.
that.
Nobody is even thinking that. I'm not even thinking that. And the fact that there are men out there who think that is not my responsibility, and I'm not giving them succor. So I will not take responsibility for that. I'm not going to stop saying it. But if we can't do that as a society, like like Aimee, you're one, but the women who watch this show regularly are the sane, normal women who see this stuff too. I'm actually surprised maybe I shouldn't be as surprised, but I'm still surprised at how many women who communicate with me, they leave a comment on a video or they send me a private message or they send me an email, how many of them say, thank you for saying it. I see it too. I don't think you're a misogynist. Because I'll confess, you guys, I'm still overly emotionally sensitive to female criticism. I have a hair trigger for it. It's one of my character flaws. There's a reason for it. It's obvious. But I find it very difficult in this day and age. I find it very difficult to trust women. And I'm constantly scanning to read between the lines. Is she winding up to accuse me of being a rapist or a misogynist or something? And I know I'm bringing a lot of that myself to it, and I try to get it under control. But the other 50% of that is there are a lot of women out there who are trying to do that. They are trying to come on soft and then get their hooks in a guy and blame him for stuff. So I don't know what the solution is to that.
It's funny in that, like, it's not even possible to say anything about women other than uncritical praise without it being reverted back onto you. So, like, the way they do it with me is that, like, yeah, you hate women. It's like, what do you even mean? Like, I am a woman. Like, that's crazy talk. Like, how could I hate women? I am wary of women, though. I find that, like, there's a handful of women who I can trust and who I would trust with my life, but the sort of like, I don't know, I sort of think of it in terms of the bell curve. Like, there's a much bigger like majority of sort of mid women in terms of both intelligence and attractiveness and all the rest. And they are the ones who are the most sort of mimetically driven and the most like one another in terms of both their opinions and then their, like, the way they comport themselves and all the rest of it. And like that particular type of woman, I try to avoid them, basically.
They're hard to avoid these days. They're
if possible. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very, very hard to avoid. And one of the things, I suppose I do feel defensive about this, which is why I keep writing essays defending myself about it. But nevertheless, that's what I do. I see a lot of what people call little things, and I'm sensitive to that criticism. I'm sensitive to, you're just making a mountain out of a molehill, because I hear my mother.
Yeah, but that's gaslighting.
That's
what
gaslighting.
People do
because
the
little things that I notice, they might be changes of popular phrases that people use. They might be color schemes that advertising uses. They might be an inflection in the voice. They might be a style.
You're detail oriented.
Very, but I see these because I see patterns in them.
Yeah,
and I see
the
signals.
devil is in the details. So you're observing something real, and people telling you to shut up and just slow. And they're like, if you listen to them, they're just trying to slow you down.
They're either slow and they don't see it and they genuinely think I'm making it up, and some of them do.
Or they're gaslighting you.
They do know. They know.
Either way,
and
they're not your problem.
They do not want that to be discussed.
Yeah,
so they have to pretend that you're crazy or I'm crazy.
Yeah, either way, then you don't have to listen to those people. Like, here's the thing. Like, if you weren't onto something, then people wouldn't be telling you to be quiet because it wouldn't bother anyone. That's the thing. Like, if what you're doing is just making a mountain out of a molehill, then why would people be all defensive and snippy about it? they wouldn't care because they'd be
True.
like, oh, that's odd. The fact that they care is telling you that like there is something there that you're onto. And so that
Well,
alone should tell you like that
that's true.
don't
But
listen.
I find I try to temper that because you can go wrong with that.
Yeah, if you take
In,
it too far, yeah, you want
you
to be
know,
able to be
like
responsive to
people always
good
say things like,
criticism.
well,
Yeah,
you're getting flack because you're over the target. Well, that's fine, and
not always. Yeah, that's true.
often true. But you can also convince yourself when you're just being a dick.
When you're being a
You can
dick, yeah, I
convince
totally
yourself
agree. Yeah,
that you're really on it, but
yeah,
actually people are reacting to you because you're being a cock.
yeah.
You know,
Sometimes you're just being
and
a
I can be a
dickhead.
dick.
Yeah,
So
not you personally. I meant myself
no, I
when I was
can
thinking that
too.
when I said it. Yeah, no,
Definitely.
no, it's the same. Like you can't have these sort of like one size fits all like coders that will be appropriate in every situation. You ultimately just have to use your discretion. But yeah, it's frustrating because like the the more you're inclined to be over the target, like the more they're gonna do this sort of thing. But I think it's unfortunate in that like it really does tap into sort of good qualities. I think probably the worst thing about this close to be bullshit is that like it it exploits like good qualities that you don't want to eliminate in yourself. So you want to be like conscious to feedback. You don't want to be sort of so above
Yes.
it all that you can't hear when people are telling you you're going wrong. But by the same token, like they can weaponize that and use it against you.
Yeah, and well, this is as is so often the case. There, I hear an echo of a long ago conversation I had with my therapist. And when I say my therapist, this guy is
Yeah.
based. He's old school. He's a hard ass. He's none of
Oh,
the
I
woke
like
shit.
those old school therapists. They're
Yep.
impossible to find these days.
Very hard to find. But I talking about my frustrations. How do I know if I'm going too far? How do I know if I'm being oversensitive? How do I know if I'm seeing something real or if my PTSD is ginning me up to make a problem where there isn't? And he's like, there's no easy answer to it, but the quality that you're trying to go for and that everyone should try to go for is discernment.
Mm,
What does that mean? Well, that just means being able to accurately tease things apart and see them for what they are, and that's difficult, and it's a constant skill building process. There's no end point
mm.
to that. You can always be more discerning than you are now, and but it's difficult. It's sometimes hard. Do you sometimes, Amy, find it hard to tell when you are being overly triggered by something or reactive because of a personal experience, or if you're accurately seeing something out there? Do you ever have that struggle?
Yeah, definitely. Because often you were talking earlier about a kind of embodied intelligence that is instinctive. And I think often, like, that's what I'm dealing with as well. And so, like, I can't necessarily rationalize it fully to myself. And so the inability to do that in a sort of like logical, rational manner means that like that it is difficult to tell whether like I'm onto something, or whether I'm just being unreasonable. And so like in the
Yes.
absence of being able to work through it in the sort of logical way that you ordinarily would, there's but by the same token, like the ability to spot this shit early is the only time at which you can like the earlier you can spot these dynamics and attempt to redirect them or change them, the less damage they do. So it's this
Mhm.
really difficult thing where it's like, well, there isn't actually an advantage to getting there earlier, but if you're wrong, then you're both making a fool of yourself and you're being unreasonable to somebody else and all the rest. So it's a really constant battle, I guess.
Yeah. Give me a second here. I should have made a graphic for you guys. I'm so unprofessional here, but this is my first time back on the stream since the big old move. So bear with me a second. And I'm doing this because I want you to give me cash money. Nested windows, nested subfolders. Here we go. Okay. We've got one more. Mediocre Witch, $5. Thank you very much. She says, COVID really showed me the truth of all the kind and caring women I thought I knew. The speed at which they turned on anyone who didn't comply was scary. And I think that's a pretty common experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was fascinating to me the extent to which they could sell this like a full-on totalitarianism, but like on the basis of it being like for others, like on behalf of others. So there was all this bullshit about like, you need to get the vaccine for other people. It's like, but that's not. It's not what a vaccine is for. That's not how
and
you're supposed
this
to
was the first time in history that
articulate
anyone
like
ever said
defense of a
that.
vaccine. Yeah, this is like weird. That vaccine is like a charity thing that you're doing for the people who can't do it. Like, wait, what?
Well, it's I played this.
So it doesn't have inherent value. It's only what?
Yeah, it's a couple shows ago, maybe a month ago, I played a clip from the height of the COVID hysteria with a teenage guy, maybe 17 or 18, in a mall, and a couple of late middle-aged women were standing in the door of one of the stores in the mall, and they had their big old masks on.
Right.
And he's just coming along. He's happy-go-lucky. He's going to go skateboarding. And these biddies start going at him, right? He's this, handsome 17-year-old, white guy. And they're like, where's your mask? Where's your mask? He's like,
why would you wear a mask?
Why am I going to wear a mask? She's like, there's a virus. And he's just playing it off. He goes, I don't have a virus. Why should I wear a mask? I don't have no virus, right? And they're like, my mask protects you. He's like, but I don't need protection. But I'm protecting you. You have to protect me.
Yeah, it was so false. It was this like totally bullshit like frame. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Oh, a good comment here. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, Prueba, and I'm not going to go any further. Do you think that cluster B is more common with trans and lesbian women? Yes, 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 and yes. Here's what I think about, first of all, trans, trans isn't real. Trans is and it's not a standalone psychiatric illness either. It is a symptom of a deeper psychiatric illness. Here's who I'm not talking about. We're going to bracket this off. This is your not all right at the front. Yes, there are kids especially who are genuinely have some autistic traits. There's not nearly as many as you think there are, not nearly as many, but there are some kids like that who get into this because of their autistic traits and who get taken advantage of. Yes, they're real, but I'm bracketing them off and they're no longer part of the conversation. So you don't get to get angry about your autistic Spurg friend. The majority of trans simply is cluster B. Trans is borderline personality disorder. It's not like borderline. It is a symptomatic expression of a cluster B disorder, not a standalone. There's nobody who's trans who does not also have a comorbid psychiatric thing. And it's not even comorbid. The trans is the symptom. Just like anorexia and bulimia were the most common symptoms of trauma and often nascent personality disturbance in girls in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Anorexia and bulimia, they're not standalone medical illnesses. They're symptomatic expressions of underlying psychiatric disease. Trans is that. It's today's anorexia and bulimia. So do I think it's more common in cluster B? I turn that around and say, there aren't that many so-called trans people who aren't cluster B. First of all, because it's part of cluster B. And lesbians, yes, lesbians are fucking insane. And I still, it's like, I have black friends, I have lesbian friends. I have a lot fewer than I used to. Guys, I'm sorry, but homosexuals in general do not have much of a psychiatric profile to recommend us. Most of us have serious psychiatric problems, or we're at some stage of healing from them. Lesbians are particularly fucking nuts. Sorry. That's what I think. You want to jump in with anything on that, Aimee?
I don't really know any lesbians because I tend to get along better with guys. So.
She's like, I don't do that.
I just, that I would piss them off way too fast. I think I would just grind their gears. Although I did find that I had a pretty instructive moment when I was like 19, where we went to this lesbian bar one night, and I was like, I have never been more like groped and basically
Really?
like digitally raped than I was that night in that bar full of women. Like, I wish men were that rapey.
She's like, what do I have to do to get a male hand on my ass?
Yeah, no, like these women were completely out of control. Like that, I would feel like I multiple times I felt hands down like the back of my pants, and I was just like, "What the
Women
fuck are you
doing this,
doing?"
really?
Women were so hardcore. Yeah, it was like
That's
the craziest
interesting.
thing. Yeah.
I am used to this from gay men. I mean, what it's like if you're a gay man and you're at least reasonably good looking and young, you walk into a gay male party, you walk into a gay male bar, within 2 minutes, somebody's hands on your ass, somebody's hands are up under your balls or pulling on your dick. I mean, they will just grope you all over the place. I didn't really
Yeah,
think
that's what this was. Like, I've never
it was
experienced
women
anything like
doing
it.
it.
It was
That's
full on. Yeah.
interesting.
And like hands up my shirt, hands on my tits. Like, it was just
Yep.
completely out of control. Yeah.
Yep. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I was young and in my 20s and hot, I kind of liked it.
Well, I mean, it's flattering in some sense. It's validating. Like, it was, like,
Yeah,
but at the same time, like, get the fuck off me.
I know. But
I
then
mean,
there are
it's
also
different
times it's
also if
like,
you're not into
that's
them,
not
because I'm not
yours.
into women. Like, I'm not into women, so it was
Right.
just like totally zero. Like, it was just like, get the fuck off me.
Well, of
But
course.
like, although, yeah, I don't know how my reaction would have been if it were men. I mean, I think I would have found it funny, but like, also get the fuck off me.
I'm going to take one more question because this is a serious one. And then we're going to wrap up here. I really appreciate your time today, Aimee, and we're going to have to do
Oh,
this
my
again.
pleasure. Sorry, I had the tech problem. I'll be on camera if
That's
I
okay.
ever
Next
come back
time when you
again.
get
Yeah.
your computer all set up and stuff, we'll do it again
Yeah.
differently. Maybe we can have a panel discussion. Bring my sister on and
That
some
would be
other
so
interesting
cool.
people.
Yeah.
But person whose name I can't pronounce, I'm sorry, Prueba, says, Josh, how do you decide when to go no contact with a borderline family member? My mother is destroying my brain and my sanity. What do you do when you go no contact and they beg you and they beg you? Okay. So you've helped me out. You've given me enough information in that. If you are serious when you say that your mother is destroying your brain and your sanity, that means you need to go no contact. You know the answer to this. I know it's hard. But if you are moved to say to me, my mother is destroying my brain and my sanity, you're in a dire position. You need to go away for your health. I don't, as you guys know, I do coaching and consulting. And if you're interested in talking to me privately, one-on-one for an hour, go to joshuaslocum.net. You can book me through there. What I do is not mental health therapy. I'm not an accredited therapist, but we talk about things that are therapy adjacent. And I have plenty of personal and now professional experience in dealing with cluster B. So I'd be happy to spend an hour with you to help you sort out a personal issue, see it clearly. I can't solve your problem for you, but what I can do is help you to see it clearly, the best I can as an outsider who doesn't know you, but can evaluate your situation. And so what I do with clients is first we have to identify what's actually going on to the best of our ability. We want clarity and accuracy in our perceptions. And then we want to look clearly and accurately at the choices that are available to you. Stay, go, do something in between. And we're going to look at the pros and cons of each of those paths because each of them does have pros and cons. Going no contact does have cons. Going no contact does have pros. It will be up to you, as it always is, to decide which set of trade-offs will be better for you because it's always trade-offs. There's no perfect
Yeah, it really
solution.
depends on your situation, to
It
be
does.
honest. Yeah.
And some people can't go, like if you've got a kid with a cluster B, you can't go no
Yeah, you
contact.
can't.
You're
It's not
saddled
gonna
to them.
work.
And your
Yeah.
kid actually needs you to frankly, better you should be abused than your kid if you can run interference. So I do think that it is your
Yeah.
job to shield your kid from the cluster B spouse as best you can. But I don't tell, when I'm with clients, when I'm talking one-on-one, I don't tell them what to do. And I don't tell them, except in limited cases. There are times when I'll say, you need to go no contact. And I'm telling you that and I'm being dictatorial with you because I'm actually afraid that your girlfriend is going to kill you. I've had that happen a few times when a family member I really do believe was about to kill my client. So, but outside of that, it's up to you to do it. But if you're trying to figure out that question, if you can articulate the statement, she's destroying my sanity, my heart, my peace of mind, your answer is clear. You've got to go. Now, what do you do when they beg you and beg you? Block them.
Yeah, you can't be letting
block
that
them.
influence.
Don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
Don't even read the text message, or save the text message for documentation later if you need to.
But if you have them blocked, you shouldn't be receiving their text messages.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll figure out. They'll keep stepping it up to.
They will. My mother did too.
But
so, for
eventually
example,
they stop.
I finally put my mother on complete no contact 10 years ago, and that was I had to take her to court. She was renting my upstairs apartment, and I had to evict her in court.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Best thing I ever did. And then I blocked her everywhere.
It is a lot like a drug, and once you get it out of your system, you sort of are more sure that you did the right thing.
You have to stop. You cannot heal. You cannot heal. Let me use the alcoholism example, because I'm also I was an active drunk for more than 20 years. I've been sober for 6 years now. Sober from alcohol.
Well done.
I still smoke weed to go to sleep at night, so I'm not completely chemical free, but I'm not a drunk anymore, and my life is a lot better. But the relationship is the same thing as alcohol or a drug. I went into my therapist, and prueba, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to everybody, but I'm talking particularly to you. I want you to hear this message, please. When I was still drinking actively, toward the end of my career with alcoholism, I knew that I had a big problem. I'd been lying to myself for a long time. I lied to my doctor and lied to my therapist. When I stopped lying to myself, I noticed that it wasn't just when I was drunk that I had problems. And I did, I would say ridiculous, embarrassing, humiliating things on social media at 1 a.m. when I was plastered. So I'd wake up sometimes after having blackout drunk saying, what did I do to ruin my life last night? Which friend did I drive away? So I had all those horrible things from being acutely drunk.
Yeah.
But alcohol, when you're a chronic drinker, messes with your biochemistry for days on end. A hangover is not just a headache. It's also emotional dysregulation the next day.
Yeah.
A tendency to panic attacks, really heightened anxiety, feeling out of sorts in your body. It fucks your mentation up, even when you're not intoxicated.
Yeah, it even screws up your sleep-wake cycle.
It screws up your sleep. It deprives you of healthful sleep. I was beginning to identify this problem, but I was still negotiating and rationalizing. And I said to I remember one day I was crying, bawling in front of my therapist about why can't I handle my emotions, blah, 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 blah. And I realized that what I was saying to him was stupid. I was trying to find a way to be an alcoholic without having alcoholic
without the side effects. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what he said to me stuck with me. And he said just one sentence. He didn't go any further. He just looked at me calmly and said, when are you going to stop going home and drinking poison until you fall unconscious every night? When are you going to stop drinking poison every day? Jarred me back, pushed me back. Now, it took me 1.5 years from that point to stop, but that sentence rang in my head the entire time, because then I knew that I was making a choice and that I was drinking poison, and this was my choice and only I could stop it. It is exactly the same thing with you and your mother. Cluster B is poison. And I say this to my clients. You cannot start the healing process until you stop drinking your mother.
Yeah, it's also just like very like the idea of being a moderate drinker.
You can't be a moderate drinker with your mom or your dad who's cluster B. You cannot do it.
They don't allow boundaries. Like, they violate boundaries. That's
you
just
must
the way it
take
is.
control.
So
maybe
it's not something that you can.
Yeah, Amy's right. Maybe in 5 years or 10 years, who knows what'll happen? Maybe you will decide the best thing for you is very limited contact, Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, a letter or a card or something like that. That may be the best route for you, but it is not right now.
But
if you are in that acute situation, you need to go dry immediately.
Yeah,
or
you'll
you're
just
going
get
to get
worse and
worse.
worse, and then it'll be much more difficult to get back to neutral or okay if you allow it to continue onwards, because it'll eat whole chunks of your life.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I see you're also commenting, suggesting I do an episode about going no contact. That's a really good idea. Thank you. I will do that episode, and don't be afraid to remind me if time goes on and stuff like that. Leave a comment somewhere, leave a comment on my Substack, say, hey, are you going to do that episode on going no contact with BPD? Because that's a really good one. And I appreciate that. And you're right. Most therapists these days are incompetent. They're not like my therapist. They're not like old school therapists. They validate and
they're
affirm
just
cluster B
enablers.
behavior.
Yeah.
So, it is hard to find a good therapist these days. But we've been going for a couple of hours here. It's been a fun conversation. Aimee, do you podcast yourself? Do you blog? Do you have a Substack? Do you have a place that people can find your work if you do work? And if so, now's the time to promo yourself.
I've just been tweeting because I've had so much like other work that I do to keep the roof over my head. But I've just been twittering for the last.
Well, you can follow her on X/Twitter. She's at AIMEETRESE. Aimee,
TERESE. Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Here,
I'm going to
type it. I'm going to type your handle in both the chats. AIMEET.
TERESE.
And how is your last name? Is it Terese or Terese?
Terese, yeah.
Terese, okay.
Yeah, how you pronounced it was great the first time. I remember at the beginning, you were like, she can let me know if I did it wrong. I was like, no, that was perfect. Yeah.
So that's where you can follow Aimee. I will encourage you though. You have so much good to say. I would be a subscriber if you opened up a blog on Substack. I think you have a lot
I need to
offer,
write
Aimee.
a few things long form. I get, yeah, because I think I'm a little bored with the whole like news cycle lately. It's sort of getting dull.
Well, there's all sorts of things to enliven that. But I would be your dedicated reader if you started up a place where you put up essays. So keep it in mind.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. Actually, quite a few people have said that, so I should probably do something about it sometime soon.
Yeah. All right, and one last promo, guys. If you like what we're doing and you don't want to be a monthly subscriber that gets debited every month, just buy me a coffee. I've put a crap ass graphic on the screen, but it's ko-fi.com/disaffected. You can give $5. You can give $50. We appreciate it. I love you all. You will all get a little thank you note from me. But this is part of how I try to make my living, because I'm canceled from respectable employment, and every little bit helps, and I do appreciate it. ko-fi.com/disaffected. Don't forget right now, click subscribe and notify on YouTube and Rumble. And we will be back next week at 3 p.m. And I will try to drag my sister on here too and have her give you an update on what it's like to live above the monster that is Joshua Slocum. So everybody, thanks very much. Aimee, thank you. Chat, thank you guys. See you next week.
Bye.